I don't need to get into the details of that. So patient is afraid of spiders. They come to you. They say, I know I'm afraid of spiders. It's stupid, but I'm afraid of spiders. We can sit and talk about how spiders are safe. The patient says, I know they are safe, but there's part of me that is afraid. I know going to grocery store is okay, but part of me is terrified of being around humans. What can we do? We need to do exposure therapy. How do we do that? We need a spider. Where do we find a spider? We don't have a spider in the clinic. We don't have a dog in the clinic. We don't have a snake in the clinic. And more importantly, when it comes to the areas I'll be talking about, which is human-related avoidances, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, which is social anxiety disorder, which is agoraphobia, performance anxiety, all of the situations that I feel nervous around humans, you need a human for me to practice. So ends up we have to try in the clinic and say, hey, how about we write the hierarchies for you and go do it in the grocery store. Patient goes to grocery store. There are so many people. They get nervous. They don't do it. So we don't have these tools and these environments and people and objects to create what the patient needs for exposure therapy. As a result, we just sit and talk with the patient. And a lot of patients don't improve over time because we have not been able, because of logistical issues, to go with them or be with them within the environments they're avoiding because of their fear. So in 2000, about 10 years ago, this is just some history. You don't have to pay too much attention to this part, because then I'll get to the meat of the work. I learned about augmented reality. I have this headset here, which is HoloLens, which is an ancient considered headset now, doesn't exist even much more in the product. You see, it's like sunglasses. So we all know virtual reality can help bring what we are avoiding to the real world. And the patient can wear the goggles. I'm sitting here and I'm seeing digital objects in the headset, and I use joysticks and navigate them. But when I learned about augmented reality, which is basically combining real and unreal, I got excited because, as you can see here, it's like sunglasses. You wear these glasses, you see the real person, you see the walls of this room, you see your therapist, and then you can also see digital objects. So it's very, very immersive. So we started playing around with it about 10 years ago, and we said, let's start with phobias and see if phobias work. We started with fear of phobias. You wear the goggles. I place tiny spiders in your environment. I tell the spiders what to do, where to go. And we found that patients, everybody was able to, in less than 1 hour, touch Tony Stark, which is our tarantula. So we found this very, very effective. So first thing, you need the digital objects to create the fear response for it to work, right? They did create the fear response. People were terrified of our digital spiders. And then in less than 1 hour, average 38 minutes, everybody was able to touch a real tarantula. A month later, they came back, the effects were still there. So we got very excited. We did the same with the fear of dogs. But I'm going to just skip a couple of these slides. And then we went to the realm of humans. We wanted something that can be used for treatment of any condition that has a challenge with humans. That, again, is post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of people with PTSD, because of their trauma, they avoid a certain type of humans, or overall anywhere that there are humans. I have patients with PTSD who even do grocery shopping online. And a lot of times we don't ask in the clinic about those because we are more focused on nightmares and flashbacks and negative thoughts. So we don't even see, are you going to the grocery store? Are you going to parties? Are you hanging out with your friends? And a lot of these patients avoid people because they're afraid. You all are more familiar than I am with social anxiety disorders, those avoidances, agoraphobia, performance anxieties, fear of public speaking, all of those conditions. So we said, how about we set up a platform that allows transdiagnostically the therapist to bring the patient to an environment of interacting with digital humans. So instead of you going to the grocery store with your patient, I'll bring the grocery store to your clinic here. So we wrote, so the product that I'm going to share with you, we call it ExpandXR, which is supposed to expand the horizons and the quality of my life, has different components. One is that we wrote the hierarchies. We said, okay, for the beginner, We want to take the patient to a grocery store. I don't want you to spend too much time creating the grocery store. I've written the hierarchy. In the beginning, a petite woman comes to the far corner, and then you just gradually hit next, and more people come and more people come. Your patient can walk around this grocery store, interact with digital humans, and practice exposure. We also created what we call a scene generator. You have more than 100 characters of different age, sex, race, body type. You say, okay, I want to practice public speaking. I want a white man, a black man of mid-age, and an older white woman, and other person, and I put them in front of my patient. I can tell them what to do. I can type in what they say, and I can have my patient interact with. I'm talking too much. I can show you a video that demonstrates this more easily. And you saw that old headsets. In this video, you will see a new headset, which is Apple Vision Pro, the latest technology that you guys have it. You're one of the few in the world who have access to that technology right now. With generosity of Apple and our ability to offer the software to you guys, here's how it works. The patient, hear me, where's the goggles? A couple of taps, and I'm in the app. And this is what I see. So you see, I see the real room around me. Those are the real boundaries of the room. That's not digital, that's not virtual. It's like I'm wearing glasses. And on the top left, you see what the therapist says. The therapist sees me and sees a 3D map of where I am and draws these lines around me and says, okay, everything is gonna now happen within this space. Basically, adjusted to the size of the room we are in. We prefer a room that is not cluttered because the patient wants to be able to walk around and the digital characters will be walking. So a room that is like empty in the middle will be the ideal setup. And then they just choose a scenario. Let's say grocery store. Let me know if you hear the sound here.
How much pasta do you think we should buy?
Do you all hear the sound?
Yeah, we do.
I think 12 people are coming over.
So now we're in the grocery
actually
store. And
10.
basically that's the therapist
They're
bringing
canceled.
more and more people.
I think we need 4 boxes of pasta and 3 jars of sauce.
Beltline was a mess, so we had
You need to start.
Now we're in the restaurant.
Yes,
And that is Mackenzie. So this is the augmented reality aspect. I see my therapist, I see the digital humans, and it makes it extremely immersive. Mackenzie will talk later about the patient experiences. So we have chosen these most commonly needed and avoided environments by a variety of patients because these are, if I can gradually feel comfortable around these contexts, it easily, based on our practice experience, generalizes to other public spaces.
See if that is the trick.
I
want my granddaughter to build her confidence in fishing. I'm going to ride it at the annual cruise they have.
Now we are at the home party.
Wait till you see the paint job. The engine sounds great now too.
And because we also work with first responders, we have created their work environments also. A police station, a fire station, because a lot of cops and firefighters with PTSD hate to be around their work environments. So we also have that additional, and of course there's also military characters in some of these scenarios separately for veterans if there's veterans with PTSD or social anxiety that need the treatment.
You were at an accident on the South Freeway at rush hour. It was gnarly.
So here's the augmented reality aspect. I'm walking on my own feet and looking at this room, which makes it extremely immersive.
How are you handling it?
That's good.
I try not to focus pretty good. My husband's working a lot of overtime when I'm there.
I know he works hard.
Watkins got
It is what
promoted.
it is.
I also mentioned we have the scene generator. Now here you basically have access to a Hollywood studio of more than 100 humans and a lot of props. You can set a specific scene to the needs of that certain patient to individualize it. So you basically, let's say I want to practice public speaking, you drag and drop these people in front of me. and set up the scene. This technology has been very helpful to And us that's in Detroit creating in the real-world environments that our patients avoid because of their trauma and anxiety. Any questions? Now, this is being typed by my colleague.
What do you envision for the future of this technology?
Tremendous. So you can tell what these characters will say. So this is a setup, again, for helping patients overcome their avoidances of human interactive situations. We have kids, we have, for our other first responders, we have people with bruises, people with guns. We just have a couple of people with guns that you can tell them to draw the gun and put the holster. That's it, nothing more. I'm going to show you one of our patients' experiences. This is a detective, and again, I'm showing a lot of first responders examples because these people are a large group we are treating, but you can imagine generalizing to other groups. She, because of her trauma at the police station, was seriously avoiding police environments. So we have done, and she came in not because of the police problem, mainly she couldn't do grocery shopping, she couldn't go out at home. She was struggling with being outside at home at any point, even coming to the clinic. So we have done the grocery store and the restaurant. Now she's going out, she's doing her shopping. Now she wants to, this is, I think, session 5 or 6, be able to be around around cops. There are 2 cops at the far corner of the room. And you can see, I'm going to show you how really effective it is to create the fear responses you need for therapy to work. Do you feel? Huh?
I said, so honestly, I don't even want to be near them.
Just listen to them. Listen, tell me what you're talking about. You see the dissociation. She cannot.
You know what? I don't even know. I blanked out. I'm sorry.
Listen, what are they talking?
I was trying to like, how can I feel comfortable without panicking?
So this is next session. We skipped a week. She came a week later in the same room with the same cops, 6 of them. So that at the end of that last session, she had her own catharsis and all the negative emotions came up, and she kind of like got cheerful. We processed those, and now she is back with 5 cops in the room.
They're new? He's not. She's.
Nobody's new.
I haven't seen her before.
Maybe you didn't have a chance to look at her because all the time you were screening men.
Yeah.
You were checking out men to feel you're safe. No, and you didn't look at the ladies because they are not threat. They have name tags with which is not clear name.
I just noticed that.
What's your number now?
I'm like a 3, but it's a. So
her number is the SODS number. We asked them, and you can enter the SODS in the software that will keep it for you. So this woman is back at work. We have AI brains, so you can place an AI brain in any of these characters that you want, and tell that AI brain what it is. You can say, like in the left photo, I can share these videos later with you guys. This woman, Amy, is my friend who is pushing me to drink alcohol at this party, and I want to practice saying no to her. It could be someone who's doing a job interview with me. It could be someone who is mean and being a intrusive colleague. It's someone who is pitching my startup to. So all of that. And this is
Dr. Arash, just to give an example of what it could also be, I had the AI brain be somebody who was offended that I said something offensive. So intrusive thoughts, fear of saying something inappropriate or harming someone's feelings, that it could respond offended. How could you say that to me? So it could get very creative of the scenario that it's responding to.
Absolutely, yeah. It will be whatever you want, as you said, as it will be as wide as your creativity with what roles you want, and you can even adjust the role and say be tougher, be softer, And it could be, the cool thing is that it could be any human of any age, race, sex. And this is the idea. You have this toolbox that you can create any encounter environment and walk in it with your patient where you want. So the use is transdiagnostic. It's not a tool for treating PTSD or social anxiety per se, anywhere that humans have difficulties interacting with people. If you want to learn more about it, we have published these papers. The left one shows the methods of the treatment. The right one shows the feedback we got from therapists across the country and patients with PTSD. I'm going to show you a couple more examples. This guy is Detroit police detective. Basically, this was an undercover detective in Detroit who had seen everything. But this guy at this time was in a position that he could not leave his apartment, his workshop and apartment in the same building. He wouldn't even go grocery shopping. And he could not leave his gun at home, always with him, and was in therapy, was on medications for years, but still that avoidance aspect that I mentioned was missing from life. So now he's talking to the AI human that we said be a peer, and this guy is a talker, but you see how nervous and quiet he is in this encounter.
How long have you been on the job?
And this is what he sees.
Been a paramedic and firefighter for a while now, over 20 years. Before that, I was a police officer for 5 years.
Big career.
It's had its moments, seen a lot, learned a lot, but it's a job that's always challenging you.
Do you do any hobbies?
Cars, sports. I've got a 72 Mustang that I like to tinker with in my free time.
You can stop. What do you feel in your body?
I don't feel this.
You feel,
Yeah. I can.
This guy.
Sweating, getting hot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely sweating.
Mm-hmm. What else you feel in your body?
Anxiety, anxiousness, chest around my extremities, stuff like that. But I'm starting to get hot and sweaty now.
So this is what we see, and what is interesting is that we see a lot of these reactions are in the body. But the cool thing is that when I say that to the patient, let me bring a real, real object of your avoidance, they a lot of times avoid because fear is too intense. But here, they cognitively, logically know they are safe, but the animal brain, the body reacts. And I think that's one reason it works so well, because of the disconnect. Here we are sitting at the bar in the restaurant. We usually have these bar-side chats with him. We did before his treatment ended. It's talking about that experience with the AI human.
I didn't think this would stress me or anything like that. And like I said the last time I was talking to the AI person, I would start sweating bad, like I could feel it. I got hot and everything, and it really, really stressed me. And I didn't really feel stressed. I didn't like, I could describe it to you, but it wasn't like if you and I had a stressful situation, we had to run into some bad people or something like that. You can explain that, everyone can understand it, blah, blah, blah. But yet I'm just sitting here talking to them, and I am talking to them, and I feel fine sort of talking to them. It's a little embarrassing and stuff. But my body reacted way on a higher level than my mind did. You know, my body really felt the stress.
You even at the moment cough and you moved your head this way as if there's a real human in front of you. You don't want to cough in their face.
No kidding. I didn't.
I don't need to show these. These are basic autonomic responses showing the body really is terrified at the moment. And now this is, I think, session 6. She's talking about the whole experience now.
Does it solve with the real world? I think so. I'll give it a couple more weeks and see and give you an answer better. But yeah, like today, I said experience at Kroger was pretty easy, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually quite easy, surprisingly easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so much so that my fridge at home is empty. Empty, right? Why is that? I'm not completely broke or nothing. I can go buy food, but I keep myself from putting myself in those situations. So therefore, the necessities of life go away, and you have to make a decision to do things or not. And my avoidance has led me to, sheltering myself. So through this and sleep, I think it's getting a lot better.
Today you shot that program, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Today I shot the program.
So this guy is back in life, and he, I saw him last week, 2 weeks ago, about a year after ending his treatment. I think he did 13 or 14 sessions. He's still functioning. He still goes to Detroit Eastern Market and does all of these. Some pilot data, basically within 4 to 12 sessions, patients with PTSD. And a lot of these people, I would consider them treatment resistant before this, because like this guy was on meds and in therapy for a few years before we saw him, and still had full-blown PTSD. People lose PTSD diagnosis more so and easier for social anxiety disorder. I will actually, I have Mackenzie here, so I don't need to share more slides because she will talk more. Let me stop sharing. So we're using people with social anxiety come in. And what's interesting is that it goes a little bit beyond, I would say a lot beyond pure exposure therapy, because patients, when they're in these environments, a lot of cognitive patterns come up. They're like, oh, that woman looks like an angry church lady who is abusing her boyfriend. And the guy who is with him, the patient has already decided is her boyfriend and she's mean to her boyfriend. Or this, I've even had people's past traumas and experiences come up. They feel very nervous near someone, and turns out that someone reminds them of someone else from the past, or a pattern of the past. We learn there's patterns. Like I had patient, someone who was referred to me as PTSD, and then she's in the grocery store. She's like, I don't want to be around those people. I was like, go pick something from the aisle. She's like, no, I'm not interested. I'm like, well, if you're not interested, do it for me. Then she's like, oh, well, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? I don't know. What are you afraid? Let's try to get close and see what you're afraid of. Oh, I'm afraid they're gonna judge me. Well, what are they gonna judge you about? And gradually comes up that, well, they're gonna judge my appearance. It was social anxiety. 6 sessions later, she's back in life. She's now a party animal, actually. She goes to all the games in Detroit and the after parties to the restaurants. Another patient, one of our social workers in the clinic was using this, and for a patient with PTSD, 37-year-old woman with childhood trauma, PTSD, most of her life disabled outside work, basically socially disabled. And she was like, we are stuck in the grocery store. At the level 3 that this employee comes and asks a question, she gets panicky there, and we can't, well, I don't know what to do. I said, let me come. And I come, and we prepare this woman for that guy to walk in, because the cool thing is it's fully under your control as a therapist. So the tall, middle-aged, bearded man, she is obviously panicking. The guy walks in, she's terrified, sweaty. So what's going on? And gradually she starts talking that he grabs me, pulls me on top of himself. He's touching me inappropriately. Turns out the guy was mom's boyfriend when she was a 5-year-old who sexually abused her. So the emotions come up, catharsis happens. Then I said, do you want to say something to this guy? She started yelling at this guy, kind of an empty chairs scenario. I didn't deserve this. You shouldn't have done this to me. Your job was to protect me. And she's been doing a lot better since then. We are right now submitting a case report about how AR, what we thought would be just pure exposure therapy, worked in this context. So basically, we don't do trauma exposure PE model. We do exposure to what people avoid because of the trauma. The normal, safe environments, which also makes it easier for us. We are not worried that patient, like ethical aspects of, okay, you don't want somebody pull a gun at the patient. You don't want somebody pretend they want to rape the patient, right? We bring people who could be a reminder of, because there's one thing to bring those memories in PE, there's another to bring them in the digital sphere. So in the digital sphere, we help the patient be comfortable around normal men rather than facing that trauma. And we see indirectly, it also helps with all subcategories of symptoms of PTSD. As I said, social anxiety, we have patients who, like, We had this patient, she had a startup, she wanted to pitch her startup to investors, and she was extremely nervous. So we put older people in front of her and who were interviewing her. You can type in what they say, or you can tell the AI human what to be, and AI will be fully autonomous. I'll stop here and let Mackenzie take over and share her experiences, because she is doing a lot more therapy than I'm doing.
Dr. Arash, one question on, you just mentioned you're not directly doing CPT trauma processing, but would there be any reason to not, if somebody has a fear flashback of somebody with a beard, is there any reason to not directly go for the trauma triggers using this technology?
Absolutely, CPT does happen, because this triggers the patterns, and then you do the cognitive aspect. This is an amazing adjunct to CPT, actually, because it's like in the Matrix, you're walking around and the lady in the red dress comes in and the thought patterns, and then you address those. Excellent. What I meant was, but not doing prolonged exposure model, which is basically exposure to the trauma memories, right? Like the PE models of VR is that you bring a combat veteran and take them to the streets of Iraq with dead bodies around them, right? We don't do that. We bring them to normal life situations they're avoiding. A lot of those people trigger those memories. A lot of those trigger those cognitive concepts, and then we process them. No, you brought an excellent point. Excellent addition to cognitive therapy or CPT aspect.
Helpful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And I think that might be actually a good place for me to start, in that sometimes that PE or even like imaginal exposure will naturally occur within the context of this. I had a client who, he was a bus driver, city bus driver, and he was attacked pretty bad. He sought us out for treatment because he liked video games and he thought, I could try this treatment. Sounds good. And it's appealing to me because I don't have to actually address my trauma, which was scary. So when I started working with him, very socially isolated, did not go to the grocery store, would not kind of leave his house. Even coming into sessions was difficult for him. And his thing was, I want to be able to function in the world, but I never want to touch the trauma memory. So we kind of started there. And he got that like early win in that after one session, he was able to go to the grocery store. Not very long, but he was able to go there and shop and then leave. As we started kind of working through a lot of the avoidance, it became less scary. He habituated. And there came a point where he then wanted to address the trauma. So we started building some of these custom scenarios to kind of replicate, I'm now sitting in the scenario instead of walking around the grocery store. And we're having people kind of come on this augmented reality type bus situation where I'd have characters placed behind him. And he was starting to like imagine kind of the day that this happened and work through, do some like narrative exposure, and start to process that. It kind of like naturally occurred within the context of that session. He's doing very well now. Think about going back to work now, going out to eat by himself, doing very well. And this was just under 10 sessions. So, and also isolated for quite a bit of time before that. One of the other, so a lot of the first responders that come in that I see, I think one of the most significant things is they do get like an early win where I've isolated for so long, and then I do a session and I notice going to the restaurant is easier. Going on a date with my wife, taking my kids to school, it's like a little bit easier. And so I want to come back and experience that. Feels good. And it does kind of bring them back, targeting the things that they want to do. And again, like that, sometimes that imaginal exposure will eventually happen, Sometimes it doesn't need to. A lot of the firefighter clients I see, there's so much just built up trauma that it kind of has all blurred together, and there's nothing really to target. But in targeting the social avoidance, we're able to return function. Any questions about it before I keep going?
I think it will be good to talk on a wider range than the first responders of how we utilize it and their needs, because they may not have a lot of cops and firefighters, but the reality is not, this is not a tool for first responders. This is a tool that also can help first responders and veterans, basically because we have had those groups, we have added those components. Like when you open the app, you see there's a military that basically is the same grocery store, but you have people, some people with a military outfit come in, because we also use it for veterans with PTSD.
Emma?
Yeah, I have a quick question, and I'm not sure if your research has kind of gotten this far yet, but like, for example, I know a lot of us have clients with agoraphobia who are virtual. And so I'm curious if this would be something that is possible virtually, or like if that's something we would need to kind of build up to getting them in person and then doing the augmented reality in person, just because I know that can be something that is really difficult for them. And so I think that this could be really beneficial for clients with agoraphobia to do.
I was going to say a practical answer to that is the technology, because it is so expensive, the headset being here, they're not going to have it at home. So I'll be interested to what the team says about it, that like maybe there are like a lower cost headset that we could encourage homebound clients to have. So just like that one practical component I wanted to call out, but interesting question. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, in the future, that would be kind of like an ideal scenario. There are some practical limitations. The room, like you need a pretty blank room to be set up. So even does the client have space to kind of do it within the home? I do see in the future that kind of being where it leads. As far, if you can get them into the clinic, it is very beneficial, and it's kind of that stepping stone between where it's not as scary as going to an actual grocery store. We get to do a virtual grocery store here, so it can be very beneficial in that way.
And one other thought is that we could travel, like occasionally we do home based if it's logistically feasible. It is not something insurance pays for. So if it was a client that we could get to charge them for the travel time, we could also bring it to them. So I love the question of bringing it into our world, because we do see a lot of clients, even getting to us is a 10 plus for them. So thank you for that question.
And one thing is also that, so not only the thing is we have a limitation in what the hardware market can offer. This is the only one now that, like, you can use Meta Quest headsets, which are much cheaper, but they don't have augmented reality qualities that are suitable for this. Because we have found that immersiveness is extremely helpful when the patient sees the Mackenzie and the room and the digital characters. Their body cannot feel. My body still cannot feel these are not real. When I hit a table, I stop. I don't go through the table. But the other part is that, so traditionally, therapy is kind of unlimited, right? We have patients in therapy for, let's say, 2 years every week. So that logistically becomes very difficult to do in person. But now, if it is packaged as, okay, you have social anxiety, you come in for, let's say, 6 sessions and 8 sessions, for you to be able to regain your ability to go to the real world. The same way a patient goes to physical therapy, the same way a patient goes. So now when it is definite number of sessions for huge social occupational functioning improvement, then that convinces a lot of our patients to be able to and willing to come, because now it is not the usual talk therapy that takes longer often, and it is now done within the home setup.
And I do see quite a bit of my caseload is patients who see their normal therapist for talk therapy, and then they see me just for AR therapy. I have those clients. I have some clients who see me for both, and we kind of integrate the traditional therapy into the AR as well. I would encourage anyone who is interested in using this to also approach it from a very your own lens. So whatever your own theoretical orientation is, integrate that. I'm not primarily a CBT therapist. I operate from a person-centered humanistic lens, and I integrate CBT, psychodynamic, IFS into the AR sessions. And I found that that works so much better for me than just operating as straight CBT. It feels more authentic to me as well.
And for some patients, you have, let's say, like Mackenzie has had some of these patients are with PTSD. They did their 10 sessions. Now they're doing great. Like she has this bus driver that at some point she even put people in chairs behind him as if he's in his bus, and people would get off the bus and come back. So that's done. But then they need some other things, like they have family issues, they have, I don't know, cognitive aspects of the negative thoughts and emotions that they need to be addressed. And then she continues basically combining different modalities with this treatment. But this really gets them out there, which is a big component of reducing the negative impact of mental illness.
Yeah. One more thing I just want to also emphasize, because I think it's something that is overlooked a little bit, is that when you're doing the AR therapy, whether you're going through the preset scenarios and targeting like the social avoidance behaviors, or if you're using like a custom scenario where you're having some of the social anxiety back to a character, something like that, it's very much movement based, in that you and the client kind of are moving around the room together, which I think is there's so much therapeutic power in that, I've noticed, where there's like really an integration of mind and body. From an observational point, I can see like my client's entire posture kind of change in a way that's more dramatic than if they were sitting in a chair. And then I can also like work with that, with movement as part of the therapy, which has been really powerful in a unexpected way. So I like to like bring that up as well. I think it's another strength of this. And then there was a question, Michelle.
Hey, I was just wondering, have you done this with pediatrics at all and adolescents? Thinking about, like school avoidance and the idea of walking into a school and having people talk to them. And I do have a client who experienced trauma through quite severe bullying, including being asked he had a jump rope thrown at him and was told to hang himself. How do you know when these clients are ready to start addressing that it won't cause more harm from the trauma, but rather will move them forward? Do you know what I mean? Like the exposures.
I mean, I would approach it just from like the AR is just kind of a tool. So whatever would be appropriate within the context. I do think that there is a age limit on like the head size of the actual goggles. I want to say it's 14 years old.
13 years old.
13 years old. I personally have not had any pediatric clients that I've used it with, but I know that there's been interest, and there's been some other labs that have had interest in using it with pediatrics.
So, but there were one of our researchers here is working on using this for exact the same, for the dating experiences for the kids. If somebody asks you out and is pushy, or okay, they want to kiss you, how do you deal with those situations? But the cool thing is that we have kids characters, and we don't have a school, but you have desks and chairs, and then you have kids that you can place in the environment within the scene generator, and then you can type in what those kids would say. So you choose a kid of the certain age and race and body type that is relevant to your patient, and then you can type in and have that conversation. Now, AI sometimes is very moral and may not necessarily do some of the things you will ask it to do in terms of bullying. A lot of times does. Like I didn't show you, there's this video, one of our doctors is doing a patient interview, like because they want to learn how to practice interviewing with the patients or dealing with a difficult patient. But I have this cop who's doing basically de-escalation, and the guy starts yelling at the cop, and the cop's hand goes here and the other hand goes here, as if there's it feels real, and those experiences happen. So you and I brought this example because it can be mean if you ask it, but like some certain situations, like how romantic it may or may not get, and which is good. We have guardrails. We will not talk about politics. We will not talk about religion. So you will not worry about, although you are there. So even if it says something stupid, you can stop it, but you won't say anything more stupid than a human would say at the grocery store.
I would say for our purposes, there's nothing contraindicated for working with children and teens, like the size of their head and is it going to fit. But some of the hardest cases are finding sample teens to be awkward around or say something that's cringy, or to have a comeback that sometimes we could find adults in the office, like other therapists, that like, can you do a role play and look really judgy? But it's really hard to find like a 13-year-old to give a good, authentic cringe look. So I would say once, for the people who are interested, like there's no reason to not use
Well, I
it
love
with
that
teen
you can
clients,
make it
childs,
like
yeah.
another teen. It's not like an adult, right? Like
Right.
that's the fact that you pull the teen or the child into it to sort of make it as authentic as possible for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple has recommended this headset for the age 13 and above. For the younger kids, I mean, the size of the headset may not fit over their head. That would be a possible challenge. But otherwise, you can bring these characters and put in front of them. And I mean, kids like the tech more. So, and one thing actually, one of our users, I don't know if it was a patient or a professor who was using it, said, this feels a lot more than role playing with a human, because when you role play with a human, they're role playing, they're fake, but AI becomes what you asked it to be. It feels like I mean, Mackenzie had done that experience herself a lot of times.
Yeah. It's the spontaneity of the AI. I know that my friend who's going to role play a therapy situation with me is going to say things within a certain scope, but I don't necessarily know what the AI is going to say. Lee?
Sorry, I was muted. I was wondering with this scene generator, how specific it can get. For example, if there's like one specific grocery store that this person is avoiding, or if the police station is oriented in a certain way, like how fine-tuned can the scene be? Is it just a police station, or can we get really specific with the, wallpaper and decor? Like, can you speak to that a little bit?
It's pretty generalized. So it's the police station, for example, is represented. It could be kind of any police station. I will say that I've noticed it doesn't necessarily really matter in the context of the therapy. The client will find familiarity with it, especially like the grocery store isn't necessarily look like any specific grocery store, but they'll kind of mold it in their head to what they want it to be. And that's kind of what I think there would also be maybe a little bit with like brands and stuff that we can't have certain branding in there, and just from a legal standpoint.
One thing is also, as I want to reemphasize what Mackenzie said, it's mostly the humans of that context that are scary. And what we find is it generalizes. One thing is, there's this room, there were the aisles of the grocery store shop, and at the highest level, there are 15 people in this room. So how can it be more dense any other grocery store they will go to? But sometimes it's like I've had patients say, oh, in this, like in Costco, those aisles are too narrow. So then in the scene generator, you can just put two aisles near each other. Or like, I'm uncomfortable being stuck behind people. We put people like in a situation where the patient, and then the patient can walk on their own feet, right? Go behind these people. We had this other patient who was like, I am wary of people looking at me. So, and the humans have it. The cool thing is that as long as you're within a certain degree angle of their view, they look at you, they follow you. So I put like 10 people who are staring at him, and I left the room. At some point, we leave the room and say, okay, I want you to be able to grocery shop yourself. I'm not there with you. We take away the social safety cue. And then this guy was just walking around, everybody staring at him like a horror movie. We basically baptized with fire.
Dr. Bartlett?
Yeah, actually, this is kind of where I was going to go with the question too. I was curious, like, does anyone have trouble, maybe not because they're habituating so much, but does anyone have trouble transitioning to real life people because they know it's digital people?
Not in my experience. So it's a very difficult thing to describe, but there's the same physiological response that is occurring, like which we've kind of looked at with the dog study and with the spider study, and then also through measuring EDA during sessions. They can tell that they're characters, they look like characters, but they're still getting like the same physiological response to people. And there's like often, I mean, firefighter, I can say because I used to be firefighter, super skeptical of everything and think everything's going to fail. And so a lot of times after the first session, they'll say like, I for sure thought this was not going to work. I thought they weren't going to be real, but they just feel in my brain like they're so real. I can't like tease out. It feels like a person. So I think that like because of that, it's easier to transition. And sometimes even because of the way the characters behave a little bit odd, like they will follow you with their eyes, which wouldn't really happen in a grocery store typically. It can be a little bit easier than to do the grocery store.
And we have physiological evidence. We basically measure their skin moisture, skin conductance, like lie detector. The guy that I showed this video, when he walked to the grocery store for the first time, it got 10 times stronger. So autonomic nervous system is 10 times more powerful. The paper I showed you, the title was meant to be the unreal that seems real, but I changed it to the unreal that feels real because one of our patients says, I cannot feel it is not real. As I still don't walk through these characters. I walk around it, and I create this.
Yeah, same.
Thank you.
I would encourage everyone to like try it out if you haven't, and I tried it out for public speaking because I wasn't the best public speaker and it worked. So much confident now. Lisa?
Yeah, I could just speak quickly to that as we're kind of getting to the end here as well, that I did VR just for fear of heights because I thought it would be fun. My kids had the VR system. I put it on. I took that thing off in like 5 seconds. And I was like, there's no way. I can even feel my hands sweating. Like the experience itself of knowing I'm clearly in my house. It was very, very powerful, the feeling. So even just through a virtual reality of the game itself, then it was trying to tell you to jump off something. I was like, that's not happening. I'm not doing that. So it was very real.
And you are the only ones in the state of Illinois and one of the 2 in the Midwest clinics with this, because this is a very novel technology and it's not commercial yet. One logistic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because if anyone has to go in the last 5 minutes, I would love if once we get a subgroup of users, because I have failed big time at disseminating this wonderful technology to you guys in a way that we could get it to our clients. So that was really, the hope of step 1, getting the experts into this meeting to show everybody like all the reasons why we're so excited about it. But then the part 2, like the dissemination science, I really need to work with a couple of individuals that really want to kind of spearhead the initiative, and maybe we target a couple of conditions, and maybe if the wonderful team would be willing to come back to us round 2 in a month or 2, once we get ourselves, or in a couple weeks, when we get ourselves more settled. So I don't want to lose momentum on this. And so I'm making external commitment that I'm going to get it to you guys in a way that we could get it to our clients. Okay, Dr. Arash.
Quickly, I wanted to say something practical in use. The app on the Mac runs a lot faster. It runs both on the Mac and PC, but if you have a Mac, it will run a lot faster, so your life will be much easier.
But it works fine on the PC too. I would just, from our office computers, it worked really well too. So
Excellent.
yeah.
I'll also throw out that if anyone is interested in this as well, I'm more than welcome to do some training, some walk you through it. You're not alone in it. It is like a new technology. So you're definitely not alone. We can troubleshoot, we can talk through things. I'm always here. I can share my email if that's helpful as well.
And she's Mackenzie is starting these like kind of monthly meetings where all the AR people from who other clinics can join and just share, converse and share experiences.
Yeah. So let us know after. You can email me directly about that, and then we'll get it out to the team as well, like the individuals that are really extra interested in injecting this into their cases. So thank you both so much for taking the time. You've got a lot going on, and it means a lot to join us for this hour. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Bartlett, I see you've got some